Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ian Blackburn, and it's time for another edition of Zoom into Wine. Every Wednesday night, we get together with some fantastic folks and talk amazing wine. We're showing off very high-end examples of great classics from all over the world every single week. Take a look at our Zoom into Wine calendar. You'll see some really great showings, and tonight is no exception. We're going to be talking about the heroes of Chardonnay. And, Chardonnay is a category that's been attacked for the last 15 to 20 years. It was the number one, probably still is, the number one selling white wine in the world. But as the market grew, people wanted something other than Chardonnay. In fact, there was a movement called Anything But Chardonnay. And the growth of Albarino, Sauvignon Blanc, the Rhone whites, and others. And maybe it was, it was due for a correction. Chardonnay had such a stranglehold on the market share. And when I start talking Chardonnay, I get comments from a lot of people. I don't usually like Chardonnay. And that frustrates me because we are going to taste 6 magnificent Chardonnays tonight from across the globe, and there's so many others I wish I could include in this lineup. But Chardonnay truly is a magnificent grape, and it has so much more potential for uh, quality, for astonishment than any other grape variety. I mean, so many things are fun and fresh, but they're limited in their capacity. They don't have the ability to gain complexity. They don't have the multi-dimension. Now, I do understand some people may be overindulged in a particular style of Chardonnay when a moment was all about being fat and rich and creamy and vanilla. I don't even think we're going to taste one of those tonight. I mean, we've got one that maybe approaches it, but those wines have really kind of been, the pendulum of wine swings from left to right. And I really think that the pendulum had swung too far for Chardonnay, and too many people were entering into that space of oaky and buttery. And tonight, we're going to explore some unique terroirs that really shine through. But there's so much more than just the terroir, the winemakers, the quality level. All of these things sing in a proper Chardonnay. And I think the wine prices are probably as competitive today as they were 15 years ago. I mean, I don't think we've seen much price growth in this category, only continued quality improvement. And that's really kind of setting the stage for the next level. I'm not saying some of these are cheap wines. I'm not saying that we're making a mistake here. I'm just saying that things happen for a reason. There are some things at play inside the wine industry that I think like a really good stock, when they're kind of flat for a while, they come out with a lot of innovation, they continue to improve, they see the marketplace is more dynamic, and boom, I think the stock of Chardonnay will be shooting up anytime now. So with that, my name is Ian Blackburn. I am a wine educator. I've been working in wine my entire life. I've been teaching classes, studying for the Master of Wine, making my own wine, running a wine store. I used to work for major wine brands. I sold for the big distributors. I went to work for a small family brand in Sonoma, and I worked for a co-brand corporation for a lengthy period of time. So I've seen pretty much all facets, all sides of the business, and I work it every single day. So I'm here to share my passion for the product. Heroes of Chardonnay, going around the globe. We're going to start off with an absolute favorite producer, favorite region. There are times in the spectrum of drinking wine. Every wine has its time, and Chablis to me is like we're entering the moment that Chablis really can get fun as the fresh summer vegetables come onto the table. You might be out eating some great seafood, some oysters. This is the ultimate oyster wine, and we're going to talk about Chablis here with a fantastic video. In fact, I wish every region of the world had a video that could explain what Chablis is as well as this video. I've seen this video 40 times, maybe more, and I still learn something from it every single time. I hope you guys enjoy it. Oh, maybe we won't be enjoying it. Where to go? There it is. Let's
Chablis wine growing region is located in France in the north of the Bourgogne region in the Yonne department, between Paris and Beaune. Its story began 150 million years ago, when the region was covered by the sea. It was then that the unique Kimmeridgian soil of the Chablis region was laid down, recognizable by the tiny oyster fossils it contains. Vines were first introduced in Chablis by the Romans between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD. From the 12th century onwards, Cistercian monks of the Abbey of Pontigny, the second of the 4 daughter houses of the Citeaux Abbey, ensured the region prospered. Thanks to its proximity to Paris, accessible by the Yonne River from the town of Auxerre, Chablis wines were soon a regular feature on the tables of the kings of France, and went on to conquer Europe, soon establishing a global reputation. Chablis wines are simple. They're made from a single varietal, the Chardonnay grape. They are always white, and they come in 4 appellations. Petit Chablis, with almost 1,000 hectares planted on the plateaus. Chablis, covering the biggest surface area, with 3,500 hectares. Chablis Premier Cru, on favorable slopes, with around 800 hectares. And lastly, Chablis Grand Cru, grown on one single hill, with the very best orientation, and covering just 100 hectares. The Chablis region is crossed from south to north by the river Ferret, which flows into the Yonne. The river and its tributaries have carved out valleys and hills, and the climat of the Chablis region sit on either side, on these slopes that are so well suited to wine growing. But what is a climat? A climat is a specific terroir that offers a subtle balance between aspect, varietal, slope, altitude, and soil type. Each climat has its own identity that is expressed through the grapes that grow them. Vaux, Val, Mont, Cote. One just needs to read the wine labels to see that the local geography is often behind the names of the climat. On the left bank, in little valleys perpendicular to the Severn, some 24 climats are located, mostly facing east or southeast. The most famous of them are Vaillon and Montmain. But there are also Ferret, Bouteau, Les Beauregards, Beaurois, Cote de Lechet, Vaux-de-Vez, one of the most steeply sloping climats, Vaux-Lignon, and Vosgont. On the right bank, there are 16 Chablis Premier Cru climats, the most famous of which are Fourchombre, Mont-de-Milieu, and Montée de Tonnerre. Other less well-known Premier Cru climats include Les Fourneaux and Vaucoupin. And lastly, on a slope below the village of Chablis, the Chablis Grand Cru appellation is grown on 7 climats, with, from east to west, Blanchot, Les Clos, Valmeur, Grenouille, Vaudésir, Creuse, and lastly, Bougros. In all, almost 100 hectares enjoy this exceptional location. Today, this little wine-growing region produces around 40 million bottles, of which almost 2/3 are exported. Each climat provides white wines of great purity. And as you explore the footpaths that wind their way through the vineyards, you too will understand what makes Chablis wines so elegant, rich, and diverse.
I really think that video just nails it. It's no Star Wars, but it is really fantastic. And talking about what Chablis is and sometimes what it isn't. This is a wine of distinctive soil, Cameridian soil, fossils, oysters. You can smell the bottom of the sea in every glass. And it's got this really crazy, like torqued acidity. So they don't do anything just to sway that. They actually amplify it by focusing it, not surrounding it with wood barrels and not necessarily clouding it over with too much batonnage. They keep the yeast, lees, stirring minimized. I'm sure some producers play around with a little bit of wood and some play around with a little bit more of this and that. But the idea here is sizzle. And this is a great producer, Domaine Vincent Dampt. I've been buying this wine for a while, and uh, we've got the 22 in stock. I quite honestly would buy every wine that they make, but my process here in the store is I try to have one wine from every producer I love, and there's enough producers that I love that that's a lot of wine. So take a look at our website in Chablis. You'll see a Chablis at almost every price point. As they get older, they can increase in age as well because Chablis does not need to be drank super fresh. I love it now. I love this wine now, but it gains some character with some time, and you'll see that. I've got some 2013 Premier Cru Chablis that I open up every once in a while, and it blows people's minds. If you can get it in Magnum, it could double that. You could go 20 years with a Chablis and still see it take on just another level. It's just wild what Chablis can do, and it is really an exciting wine. So, Mr. Damp's family, involved in the wine business for a long time. He had some phenomenal training working at Domaine Laflave. He brought that Laflavian attitude to Chablis, and the rest is kind of history. The brand, the family. There's a number of Damps as well in the business, and I carry a couple of them on the website. They are all relatives because they're so like when you make Chablis, you become kind of a Chablis specialist, and there aren't any other grape varieties in Chablis. So you really are dedicated to make production of Chardonnay out of a single soil type. And then what you've got to play with are different vineyards, as we just saw in the video. Um, the vineyards have different aspects, different elevation, different, you know, the way the sun is touching each of these hillsides, the angles, the altitudes, the flow of the wind, just those little things just change the character oh so little. And then you tie on some of the talent, their machines, their equipment, their philosophy. You can really trust the brands of Chablis to do what they do almost every single year. Chablis does benefit from the fact that they pick pretty early on because they're not looking for super ultra ripe. They're looking for higher tension, acidity, balance, and they make the wines in a very strategic way. It's very efficient. The region's quite large, 250,000 acres as a region. And Chablis was an incredible success story, and it's now hitting a new plateau. And we see the Chablis prices starting to increase with everything else in Burgundy. In fact, I'd say we're 4 or 5 years in on that trend, And so Chablis prices, you can count on most Premier Crus being over $40, most regular Chablis being over $30. And you've got your entry level Petit Chablis, somewhere around 20, 25 in this zone. And the Grand Crus of Chablis and the super producers, because there are a few, they can really push the numbers into the, the multi-$100 levels. So that's what's going on in Chablis. This particular wine, 55 years old on vine age, kind of a baby. No, they have a lot of old vine material, and Jasper Morris is an expert, a master of wine, and very conservative, very dedicated to his craft of highly critiquing and uh, pummeling wines of France, which is what he does. And he does so with an incredible mindset and perspective. Here's a look at the vineyard. Look at that stony character. You can almost that's a seashell right there. You could see, the fossils in the stones as well. So really, really interesting soils. And those are what really shine in this wine as you smell it. I'd love to get some more feedback. I see a couple chats. I hear that you're having a hard time hearing me. Is that possible? I'm not sure how many people are having a hard time hearing me.
Now, whatever you did, I can hear you better myself.
All right. All right. I'll make sure I'll pay attention to the chat. Let me know if that happens again. So here we are, $46.95 for this Premier Cru. Cote de Lechet is the name of that Premier Cru. You may have seen it in the video. It's a single site. That's what's, I think, a great way to describe Chablis, especially Premier Cru, singular. It's very focused. It's very much about that one aspect, that one single angle, and the flavor profile is delicious. It's got I think everything you need to get your evening started, and I love it at this time of year in particular. It's like a wonderful warm weather wine. That's how we begin the heroes of Chardonnay. Our next wine is taking us just down south from Chablis into a storied region that you may think, oh yeah, Pouilly-Fuisse. Well, Pouilly-Fuisse is growing up right in front of our eyes. And it's a cool story because I just got back from Burgundy. Our group was able to get an appointment with Clément Robinet, who is the new winemaker, young man, standing on the shoulders of giants, got hired by Louis Jadot to take over Domaine Ferret. Jadot bought the property about 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and they quickly made some very smart investments, and they continue to do so. And just as they purchased this property, boom, here come the Premier Cru Vineyards. They actually, over the last 10 years, have appointed a number of hillsides as Premier Cru, and no Grand Cru. But as soon as they did that, explosion of the value in the wines to the upside. And Ferret is at the top of the food chain, one of the most respected brands in Pouilly-Fuisse. There are a number of them. They're not alone, but nobody has that much land in Pouilly-Fuisse. Nobody can control this part of the world. By the way, Pouilly and Fuisse are two towns right next to each other. They are basically connected in name and in the wine. You can buy your fruit from the Pouilly side and the Fuisse side, connect them all, blend them together, and boom, there you go. That's a very noble set of towns that are connected inside of the Mâconnais. They are villages, so Pouilly-Fuisse could be blended in to your Mâcon village. But this is a really exciting project. We're gonna let our winemaker friend tell us all about it.
Heroes of Chardonnay allow us to talk to great winemakers around the world. And with the topic being Chardonnay, we are looking for top expressions, personalities, and marquee wines that really help define the category. And in today's wine world, there's probably no region in the world that is getting more attention and more excitement about things that are developing and the push for higher quality than the area known as Pouilly-Fuisse, which is in the Mâconnais. I just was able to visit recently, in the last couple of weeks, in fact, Domaine Ferret. And I had the great pleasure to meet the new winemaker, Clément Robinnet. And I am thrilled, excited, and just so impressed with where you've come from and where you are now, Clément. Thank you for making time for us. And tell me again, how did you get to where you are today?
Well, first, thank you for having me here in that show. So I'm from Burgundy, basically, but not really from the Mâconnais area. So I came more from the Dijon area, so closer to the Côte de Nuit. My family was not at all in the wine business. I'm the first one of the family to be really passionate about it. So in fact, during my studies, I made some friends that were really passionate about wine. And so I get caught in that passion, and after that, I wanted to make my job in the wine industry. So I studied wine in Bordeaux University. So I left Burgundy to Bordeaux. Then I was able to do some vineyard work and vinification around the world, especially in California, Oregon, New Zealand, to focus more on Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And finally, of course, I came back to Burgundy, working 1 year in Meursault. And then, so I was working at Domaine des Contes-Lafont in Meursault in 2020. And so Dominique Lafont offered me to join his second domain in the Mâconnais, Héritier du Comte-Lafont. So I reached the Mâconnais in 2020 at the end of the year to be a vineyard manager. And of course, after 3 years, I really missed making wine, and I had this amazing opportunity to be the winemaker at Domaine Ferret. And so now it's with, I arrived exactly 1 year ago at Domaine Ferret.
That's a fantastic journey, a great resume. For those of you that don't know, here is the region that's quickly developing now. This is a mature wine category, Pouilly-Fuisse, but only recently were vineyards elevated to Premier Cru. And this recent elevation where vineyards are now being recognized as Premier Cru status has reinvigorated Pouilly-Fuisse, and the money, the wines, the vineyards, everything is getting a lot of attention right now. And fortunately for the brand and the family that owns Louis Jadot, they purchased this winery many years ago, which is optimally set up. Can you tell us a little bit more about Ferret?
Sure. So Domaine Ferret is a really historical domain from the Mâconnais area, from the south of Burgundy. It was founded in 1840, but so it was founded by Antoine Ferret and his son, Jean-Alfred Ferret. That's why the domain is called J.A. Ferret, for Jean-Alfred. But the most important person in the history of the domain is Jean-Alfred's wife, Jeanne Lorton, who became Jeanne Ferret after they married. So she was not at all from Burgundy. She was not from the wine industry. So she arrived in the village of Puissé to join her husband, Jean-Alfred, and she started to be very interested about wine. So that was in the 1920s, 30s. And because she had no training in the wine industry, she started to taste a lot all the wines from the Domaine, all the barrels, and she really learned by herself. So there are three main things that you have to remember about the history of Domaine Ferret that are very specific to the Domaine. In the 30s, Jeanne Ferret was the first one to separate some vineyards for winemaking. She was the first to make single vineyards in the Mâconnais area. But at this time, it was not bottled at the property. It was separated in barrels and then sold to wine merchants, mostly in Beaune. In 1942, she was the first one in the Mâconnais to bottle the wine at the property. So from this time, she was able to put all the single vineyards in bottle, and so to keep in the cellar and taste it after some years of aging. And so after that, she went even higher because in the 70s, she was convinced that the best plots of Pouilly-Fuisse could be equivalent or even better to the Premier Cru and Grand Cru from Côte d'Or, from the Côte de Beaune. And so, because there was no Premier Cru and no Grand Cru in the Mâconnais, she created her own classification with the Tête de Cru and Hors Classe cuvée, which were the equivalent to Premier Cru and Grand Cru, of course, but this is only at Domaine Ferret.
The facility that you're working in now, Kamal, is gorgeous, and it is a new facility relative, right?
Yeah, so if we talk about the history, of course, we have to talk about the rival of Maison Louis Jadot in the history, because they took over Domaine Ferret in 2007. So at this time, only one part of the production was bottled at the property, not all. But when they took over, of course, the first thing they wanted to do was to be able to put all the production in bottles. So to do that, of course, they need a bigger winery, a bigger cellar. And so in 2011, they built a brand new winery in the village of Fuisse, very close to the historical domain.
And we are tasting 2020 Pouilly-Fuisse. And obviously you weren't at the winery yet, but you have been able to take a winery that has been historical, and it had all the tools and equipment. It has Jadot in there since 2007. So they really kind of set you up for success, having all the things kind of figured out. And in 20, you're very aware of the vintage conditions. Can you tell us about the 2020?
Yeah, so in 20, I was, this is the year when I arrived in the Mâconnais, so I know the vintage quite well. 20, like most of the previous vintages, was a hot and dry vintage, especially in the Mâconnais. It was at this time one of the earliest vintage at Domaine Ferret, which has been, well, now it's 22, but at this time it was 20. So we start picking at end of August with very hot and dry condition. But this is a vintage also with a great acidity, because we had some rain at the key moments. So the summer was not completely dry, and we had some very important rain, especially early and mid-August, which allows the grapes to keep the acidity, not to have too high alcohol. So at the end, this is a vintage with an amazing balance, very elegant, with a lot of minerality, but also the richness that will allow the wine to age many years. So it's probably one of the at the Domaine Ferret, probably one of the best vintage in the 10 last years.
Fantastic. Well, we are going to taste it right now with our group. We thank you, Clement. Sorry, we don't have more time to be able to chat, but I hope that in your travels in the future, when you're coming through Los Angeles, we get to see you again.
I'm
Well,
sure. I'm sure.
Clement, thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you in the future, and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jan. See you.
Super excited for him. He's gonna be a rock star. Just getting started, but bright, good looking dude, well spoken, great experience worldwide. And
Heroes of Chardonnay.
the Jadot family likes to find people like this and keep them for life. So he'll be very well taken care of. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I think it's when you rank Pouilly-Fuisse producers, especially when you talk about the AOC bottling, which is what we would describe this as, because it's not a Premier Cru, but it is AOC, but it is still just all of their own property. And there's such an elevation here, an elevated quality mark. All those little things that I was pounding the keyboard about, you don't achieve that without great vineyards, great understanding, and also just a house style that is so consistent. So he has the roadmap kind of laid out for him how to succeed, and that's really what his job is at this point, is to just make wine of the vintage and to amplify the best parts. We go from Chablis to Pouilly-Fuisse. Now we're taking like a radical southern route, probably getting on a plane from Leeuwin, flying dead south. I'm not sure if you do that when you fly. You probably have to wrap around some country somewhere, but to get to the Emmeloord Valley, which is on the extreme east coast of South Africa, it's pretty far, a place pretty far removed from where most people visit in South Africa. But I had the greatest pleasure of interviewing both the owner, Anthony Hamilton Russell, and his winemaker. So before I say anything twice, and I probably already have, here they are.
Heroes of Chardonnay continues as we journey the world of Chardonnay. And I'm thrilled to introduce everyone to a great ambassador for the wines of South Africa. We're talking about Hamilton Russell Vineyards, and that is Anthony Hamilton Russell holding the bottle of wine, the owner, proprietor of Hamilton Russell, and Emil Ross, the winemaker, sitting right next to him. Thank you guys for tag teaming on this occasion.
It's a pleasure. Good to be here. Thank you, Ian.
Anthony, why don't you take us through a little history of the brand? I've got a little slideshow, and then we can have Emil tell us about the wine. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Let's go.
It's a family business that I took over now in September, 33 years ago. Unable to access international markets because of apartheid. I returned to the country on Mandela's release and basically try to introduce the wines to the entire world. They had a profile for quality here in South Africa from the first vintage in 1981. So we celebrate this year with the 24s, 44 vintages of Pinot Noir, 43 vintages of Chardonnay. So we're not Johnny come lately, so to speak. And I focused on Pinot Noir and Chardonnay alone. They had the most beautiful thing to say about the site. We pioneered our area, which is less than a mile from the South Atlantic Ocean, 0.9 miles. Cooling current coming up from Antarctica, the Benguela Current, very strongly maritime, and importantly, on soil that was traditionally reserved for sheep and wheat. So clay content's the same as the Cote in Burgundy, 35 to 55%. And that proved to be probably the most important factor in making our wines aesthetically more in line with Burgundy than they were with general New World Pinot and Chardonnay. So from day one, 1983, our first commercially released vintage of Chardonnay, although we made one in 1982, they excited people.
We're looking at the Emil and Arden Valley. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Very close. Hemel en Aarde means heaven and earth in Afrikaans and Old Dutch.
Are there many wineries in this region now, or I mean, has there been significant growth?
Yes, and that's been something we're immensely proud of, having shown the way to financial viability with a wine venture. My father did that at great risk in the 70s, and all I did was put that on the map. But he had shown the way to making great wine in a place that no one thought great wine could be made. And even when I took over in 1991, we were the only people selling wine. There are now 28 different properties or brands from the area, 13 different wine cellars, and growing. And the Hemel en Aarde area made up of the three appellations, I think you've marked them, Hemel en Aarde Valley, Upper Hemel en Aarde Valley, Hemel en Aarde Ridge, all contiguous, all working closely together. I think it's become the most expensive viticultural real estate in the country. With my father having paid the price of a car for Hamilton Russell Vineyards in 1975.
Fantastic. Good investment. But I know how hard you've had to work, and I know sacrifices that, well, at least I can imagine some of the sacrifices you've had to endure. But it is really paying off. This has been a beautiful rise. I continue to see your wine featured in the Wine Spectator top 100, many magazines giving you the poetic justice you deserve, and I thank you again for giving us the time today. We're looking at the estate here. Is this where you guys are sitting at right now?
It is. Emil had the good grace to come up to my house and brave my Great Danes, and it's dark outside. It's a different season, and that is a house I built in 1996 and planted an olive grove around. So any of your listeners that are coming to South Africa and find the time to get to Hermanus, we love hosting people. We'd love to host you. There's no charge. Tasting lunch in my house afterwards if I'm here. We'd love that.
We were farming organically for about 8 years, and then we recently moved back to more sustainable sort of regenerative practices. Where we are with occasional summer rains, we found that organic was causing us to spray more than or do more tractor passes than we'd like, and there were certain practices that we found better in some of the other approaches.
We introduced organic practices to our area. It's very much part of our philosophy, but at the same time, it doesn't help if we go out of business. And much as in Bordeaux with the high humidities, it's very hard to implement the same practices. California, it's easy. Oregon, where we make a little wine as well, it's just wine growing heaven. We have very challenging soil, as Emil pointed out.
The wine we're tasting today, recently we also received a 95-point score. I see the James Suckling 93 here from James Suckling. And who is the 95 score from?
It's from Tim Atkin, that does an annual South African report. He's known our wine for, 25 or more years, and has always respected the Chardonnay. And it was served to Mandela in Buckingham Palace. It's sold in 68 countries. As you pointed out, 3 times on the Wine Spectator top 100. It doesn't mean it's a better wine. It just means it's got a lot of fans in a lot of places, and we work for it. It's not ours to play with anymore. It's something that we have to respect, and we are very sensitive to not changing something that has made so many people happy.
Beautiful. We before we talk with Emil about the wine, we also carry the Pinot Noir and the Sauvignon Blanc, and having great success with all three. Mule, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're tasting or going to taste here and the process that we go through to get this wine in the bottle?
Certainly. So the 22 vintage, it's fantastic vintage for us. Slightly warmer than our long-term averages, but still pretty cool. In Celsius, I think just under 25 degrees Celsius for those 4 sort of crucial months where we've got fruit on the vines. From a winemaking point of view, I think because the fruit is so pristine and we're trying to express the place in the vintage, we do very little to the fruit, so it gets hand harvested as early in the morning as we can. If there's a warmer day and there's rain on the way or whatever, we do have a cold room to put the fruit in. So we'll only process cold fruit, either coming off the vine early morning or something from the cold room the next morning. Everything's whole bunch pressed, so we've got little 18 kilogram plastic crates that we'll tip into the press. Whole bunch press the fruit, and then that juice will settle overnight before going to barrel. The beauty of the whole bunch pressing is we get a very nice level of solids in the juice without needing to use any enzymes. We're not completely against enzymes. If we need to use them, we will. But in most vintages, we get away with just settling overnight before racking into French oak barrels for fermentation the following day.
And so do you need a cold stabilize, or is that already done with this process?
We do need to cold stabilize. The wine does spend 9 months on the lease, which obviously helps stabilize a lot of those things, but we do generally keep the wine cold after élevage, before bottling.
I just want to say something about the wood, if that's all right, Jan.
Sure.
So just returned from Burgundy, seeing our coopers there. We're celebrating a third of a century working with them, and they're exclusive suppliers to Domaine Romney Conti. Emil has, over his years, tailor-made a barrel that suits our Chardonnay. So of our 21 parcels of Chardonnay, all made separately, all put together as one wine at the end, we didn't want to obsess about cooperage and toasting and all of that. We have a standard barrel with a Hamilton Russell Vineyards toast, which is a 300 litre, not a 228. And it's dried for 3 years, not the customary 2. And it's kind of a Hamilton Russell Vineyards toast, which is a light, long toast. And I think as you taste this 22, you'd be hard pressed to pick up any wood at all. And if you knew what we spent on the barrels, you would say, why are you doing it if you can't even taste anything? But the point is, it's a platform, it's the air exchange, it's the contact with the leaves over time, in the presence of small amounts of oxygen and tannin that's important. And that's one of the big additions that Emil has made to our Chardonnay, is that finessing of the barrel regime.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So once we've settled the juice, we go to these French oak barrels. A lot of it's wild ferment, so we just let the fermentation sort of happen spontaneously. We do also have a yeast called Sauvage, which was isolated on the property by a German company called 2B Firm Control. It's an organic yeast company based in Baden in Germany, and they've got that yeast isolated and available in the market, which is very nice for us, to have a stable dried form of yeast from our property. Should we need it. It's not a particularly strong fermenter, but it is nice to have that security if we've got slow, sluggish ferments. Some vintages, I'd rather inoculate with that yeast from the property than have a ferment that just drags on for 3 months.
Sure. Well, thank you guys for making the time for us this morning and this evening. And we're going to taste the wine now with our group live. And
Ian, thank you very much. We're flattered that you've included us in what looks like an incredible lineup of Chardonnays. we're proud of that. Thank you.
Such a statesman, Anthony Hamilton Russell. Great name too, right? Just kind of rolls off the tongue. Beautiful winery, an amazing place. I was very fortunate to go there. If you're ever thinking about going wine tasting in South Africa, I hope you are as fortunate as I was. I was given some advice to hire a driver, and I drove or watched my driver drive the roads with no street signs. Most of them are dirt, and directions like turning left at the old tree and right at the big rock. And we found everything without even getting lost once, because he's a professional driver, a former South African military hero, and was in very good protection and felt very safe allowing him to drive as I pass out in the back seat. And I would highly recommend you doing the same thing. I don't think he's still willing to sleep on the floor, which is what he did. I stayed at some nice guest houses and stuff like that. And instead of him driving all the way back to town, we would pop open another bottle and sit on the porches, and he slept in the guest couch or the floor. And that was an amazing week in South Africa, and I really had an amazing time. So if anybody wants to go, I'm happy to give you some ideas, put you in touch with Chris, my driver. He now runs a fleet of drivers, and has a big business. And I even was able to hook him up with MTV to be their kind of concierge of and getting them from place to place as they shot an entire season of a TV show down there. So I had great respect for him, and he's had great success over time. So he's wonderful. Another great part of this wine is this represents really one of the top wines of the region, and still maintains a very attractive price point. There are less expensive wines from South Africa for sure, but the pedigree here deserves a much higher tariff. The quality, the several placements in the top 100 of the world, and still a pretty fair price. So give it a try. I hope you enjoy the balance here. It's certainly unique because I think it has one foot in the old world of like Burgundy and one foot in the new world, where we can taste some ripeness and feel some ripeness, but with all that Burgundian tension, and really a beautiful job here, and maybe that notion of that very expensive French oak kind of shining through there too. Just a quick commercial before we move on to wine number 4. I am hosting a very special series of events. For those of you that are out of town, just know I have guests flying in from North Carolina, Texas, Washington, D.C. For these tastings. And it's going to be a really beautiful dinner. I gather basically a set of 100-point wines. And to be fair, the wines range from 97 to 100 points. And Robert Parker has said the difference between a 99-point wine and a 100-point wine is potentially what he had for breakfast. So we'll taste them blind next to each other. They are an amazing lineup of wines. Look at the website, learnaboutwine.com, and you'll see both the menu that we'll be devouring as well as the wine list. And we taste all the wines blind. We let you pick what your favorites are, let you guess which ones you think are which one is the Barolo, which one is the Bordeaux, which one is the Brunello, which one is the Rioja, the number of wines, including some Grey California, from all over the world, just really some benchmarks. So it's really one of my favorite tastings that we perform. because of the spectrum of grape varieties that are involved. Also, my classes on Sundays at the Four Seasons are pretty elevated over the summer. We take a little pressure off. We only do 1 or 2 classes a month, not every Sunday during the summer. But what we do try to pull off is pretty special. And the Rhone tasting that we have is Paso versus France versus the world, basically showing just some ridiculous, beautiful Grenache and Syrah based wines. I think the wine list to anyone that collects Rhone wines would be pretty remarkable, whether it's the Cinquenan or some of the great French wines like Jean-Louis Chave and others that are going to be tasted blind again. Guess the place, which one do you like the best? Which one is which? That type of stuff. Really fun. And we do it with a great burger from Colina Restaurant at the Four Seasons. One of the best burgers in LA, I'd say. It's got burrata and rocket and this fantastic sauce that they make for it. So really, really great. All right. Wine number 4. Go just a little bit further south now. Hard to believe you can even do that. But they know how to make some beautiful wine down there. Their season for harvest is around March. So he's done with harvest. He's actually talked to the winemaker Tim, sitting in London doing some business with some of his importers. So we'll take it to Tim Levitt recorded.
Heroes of Chardonnay allow us to talk to the greatest winemakers in the world and really get like an insight onto the wine, the place, the variety. And I'm so thrilled to be able to have Tim Levitt with us right now. He is the head winemaker at Leeuwin Estate in the beautiful Margaret River in Australia. Good morning, good evening, Tim. How are you, sir?
Very well, Ian. How are you? Great to have me.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled because we love our Leeuwin Estate wines, and you're absolutely a major puzzle piece, and a reason that we put the Heroes of Chardonnay on is to be able to give people a lot of perspective. You know, we're going to be tasting wines from all over the world. You've been the winemaker there since around 2016, right?
Yeah, senior winemaker since 2016. That's correct.
And at Leeuwin Estate, they're famous for a lot of different things. I mean, this is a magnificent property. And when you visit Australia, you don't just think of going to the winery to taste wine. It's a full experience type of a destination.
What makes Margaret River so special, to begin with, is as you can see on the map there, we're surrounded by the Indian and Southern Oceans, and that really gives us maritime influence. So we have that kind of cooling sea breeze that comes through, and with regards to the vines, that really moderates them overall. So as a region, it makes not just ourselves, but the region itself very consistent with the Mediterranean climate. When you look specifically at Leeuwin Estate as a site, we're 668 hectares of land with just over 160 hectares under vine, with an amazing amount of new plantings that we really kind of began from 2016 and then 19 and 21. So with that, the Horgan family are pioneers of Leeuwin Estate. They purchased the property in 1969, and then with the energy and the thoughtfulness of Robert Mondarby, who wanted to purchase the property in 1971, the first vines were in the ground. So when Dennis and Trish purchased the property, Dennis was a surfer. He bought the property for surfing because there's some of the most epic waves in the world. And with that, the original plantings on the estate were Chardonnay and Cabernet.
It really speaks to to the how great a location you are because of the consistency and the quality that you've been able to achieve.
Yeah,
It's spectacular.
I think that this picture actually really amplifies what I'm talking about. In the fore distance, you've got the sun setting, which is the Leeuwin Ridge. You've got that particular photo is about 6.5 kilometers from the Indian Ocean. Then you come over the Leeuwin Ridge where it's all limestone, and then it's all threaded through with lateritic iron-rich gravel, which actually started out as Precambrian granite bedrock. So Precambrian, so we're talking about 750 million years old. And then in the tertiary, that bedrock washed away to this gravel that you see, especially at the forefront overall. And I think if you combine that maritime influence and Mediterranean climate, free draining soils, it really gives a moderating factor, a buffering capacity to each of the vines. So they're not high yielding. They're quite low yielding overall, which gives us great concentration, and its perfume, its fragrance, its intensity overall. So, and most importantly, it's about translating what we see out in the patch or in the paddock and articulating that into the glass. And there's a few pictures there from the restaurant through into the tasting room, and yeah, there's many accolades. I don't tend to talk about accolades too much, but the details in the glass overall, and we're looking at the 21 Prelude Chardonnay today.
Yeah, and Prelude is it's a value in the portfolio. Is it a particular slice of the vineyard, or is it a selection of the wines that maybe could go into Artist Series?
Complete selection that is determined for Prelude. So Art Series, just shying away from Prelude just a touch, is really based on the original plantings of Chardonnay on site, which is block 20 and block 22, planted in 1975 and 1977. And Prelude is slightly young, coming from younger vineyards, but more clonal spectrum. So Gingin's the predominant clone within Margaret River, where it experiences a mirandage, which is kind of like hen and chicken, big berry, small berry. The smaller berries have the concentration because they ripen earlier. The bigger berries hold the acidity. So that's the backbone behind Prelude. I think the focus with Prelude Chardonnay is a wine that really the detail is not just clonal, but site and younger sites, but to be really complete and holistic in its youth. And that comes down to how we nurture that and how we respect that out in the paddock, where a portion of it's hand harvested, a portion of it is machine harvested. There's some whole bunch pressing. There's free drain. There's some skin contact as well. So we're really kind of looking at creating that landscape overall.
For Prelude with winemaking, what is the major difference? Is it how much wood, how much stainless?
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, that just got cut off. I saw that end coming. I'm like, I'm not finished yet, but I got to figure out where that rest of that video went. It is on our website in completion, but it just tailed off right there at the end. It did that for me earlier, and I'm like, I must have clicked out or something, but I think that's just the way that my designer put it onto the slideshow. So a couple of things I wanted to follow up on this wine. This is the baby wine of Artist or Art Series. I'll show you that on our website. But this is like if you were to name the top 20 wines of Australia. This wine's got to be on everybody's list, at least as a brand. And I don't even care which wine you look at, but their $100 art series wine is one of the great collectibles of the world. And I've tasted this 10, 15, 20 years of age, and it's often the best wine on the table. And it's it's another one of those things where, before we had one of the best Chablis producers, or there's a lot of good Chablis producers. Are they better than the one we had tonight? Subjective, but hard to beat. Vincent Dampt, top of the food chain, less than $50. The Pouilly-Fuisse, less than $50. The Hamilton Russell, again, top of the food chain, stuff, less than $50. And then this wine that we're tasting, being the baby from Leeuwin, comes down even harder than that. The Australian dollar versus the US dollar, pretty strong right now, $30. And this is not trying to be the best wine you've ever had, but maybe it's the best $30 wine you can have. And it's just a really delicious, easy to pound. It's so refreshing and crisp, and really noble stuff. I hope you enjoyed it as much as me. And we continue. We're on wine number 5. We got 2 more to go. I'm already at an hour. I can't believe it. And our next guest is here, been waiting patiently. His name is Jeff Fink. Jeff, how are you? I'm going to add the spotlight. And let's see if I can get you to unmute on your screen. You see a little button you can push there?
How about, am I good?
You're good.
All right.
Uh-oh, jars of life on this jar. Whew. You got your little jars here, Jeff. This one was put on pretty damn hard. Apologize to those at home that have to get the pliers. We are tasting your 2019 Aether La Rinconada Chardonnay, Santa Rita Hills. First, thanks for joining us. Jeff, last time I saw you, which was some time back, you were working for another producer. Can you take us through your background and tell us about how Aether came together?
Sure. So I started on kind of a whim with a guy that I designed a house for in Topanga Canyon in the late 80s. And we decided to make some Pinot Noir, and I called up the best Pinot Noir maker I knew, which was Bert Williams. I was on the mailing list of William Selling, and Bert hooked me up with a half-ton of Russian River Pinot Noir. So I did 5 vintages as a home winemaker, during which I talked Brian Talley into selling me some juice. He filled some barrels because I didn't have any equipment. And I knew it was always about the fruit. So we decided to start learning how to make wine and getting the best fruit we could. And a partner and I started a commercial venture called Tantera Winery in '97. And we made a number of vintages together, primarily Pinot, but Chardonnay from around the state. Santa Rita Hills, which wasn't Santa Rita Hills at the time, Santa Maria Valley, from Bien Nacido, which was our home. And then the latest venture is Aether Wine, started in 2013, based with Santa Rita Hills fruit in mind. So we produce Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And the Chardonnay that we have tonight, Rinconada, is the sister vineyard of Sanford and Benedict. And for those of you listening, we're all Californians here, I think. And Santa Barbara County, it's taken a long time, but it has finally come to be recognized as a pretty awesome place to grow grapes and make wine. And I've been fortunate to be here for a while. So And we're still learning. I mean, we're all learning around the world. We're learning in Burgundy. They're learning still. And Ian, I was just in Burgundy last week. So that was, in fact, I went to Chablis embarrassingly for the very first time. I'd driven past it forever. So we decided to stop, and the town was dead. Everybody was eating lunch, but we went into William Fev, and had a great tasting. And I got to see the vineyards, feel the vibe, and we all love Chablis. So that was a very cool presentation about the Chablis producer. And it's really a beautiful place, and it's reflected in the wines, as is the Santa Rita Hills. Very beautiful, very complex soil structure, particularly in the La Rinconada and San Fern Benedict. Very stony, well-drained soils, but primarily it's the climate in all these regions that we've been talking about that sort of drives these wines. The soil's important, but it's the climate that's the real factor, I think. And so we have that incredible ocean influence in these east-west valleys in coastal California, and that matched with clones. And this wine, the Rinconada, is a Wente derivative, so originally from Burgundy. And I think clones are important, but the site is, for me, the most important element. And however, the Wente type clones produce complex wines, but they have a very short picking window, I think, and they tend to kind of push the ripeness level very quickly. Or some of the other clones you can let hang longer, but I don't know that they get that flavor profile. And particularly, I think the back end of Chardonnay is important to me. I think that's what separates white Burgundy from most Chardonnays, is that finish, that tension, that almost tannin quality to it that elongates the wine. And so when we can find that, and I think this wine kind of has that chalky in a good way finish that kind of pulls it along. So I like to be technical when necessary, and I think it was very interesting hearing the technical talk about how all these different winemakers approach it. And I love hearing it. You always learn new things. And I think the oak conversation is one that, in this new iteration that I'm in, we don't use any new oak, and it's all fairly new, but neutral, because I'm just not looking so much for the oak flavor, the primary oak flavor, but sort of the more background, but more of just that vessel of aging the wine in, that neutral, happy environment that the wine likes to ferment in and to kind of spend its youth in. So and in this wine, you really don't taste the oak. And I think it's helped me learn more about the wine itself to reduce that oak impact and really understand what the wine itself tastes like, even though it's in oak, because the oak can definitely influence it in a number of ways that I've, sometimes I'm not that crazy about. So so that's kind of where we're coming from right now.
I think that your architectural education kind of comes through in the way you think about wine too, because you talk about the structure and the things that are important to you, that pay attention to the finish, and obviously the vineyard is defining your approach here a lot. How did you is La Rinconada a huge site? Is it a big holding for people to buy by the ton, or do you have to commit to an acre? What do you do there?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of whatever deal you can strike. I've done it in many different ways. I've had long-term acreage contracts, planted vineyards, essentially not owning the dirt, but funding part of the development cost and having access to the fruit for many years, controlling the farming as much as we want to do that. But honestly, unless you're an expert and with your hands dirty every step of the way, your reliance on the professional growers is kind of important.
So we're talking about south of Lompoc, or maybe east of Lompoc.
Yes, yeah, south and east, correct.
Yeah. And how much wine are you making today?
We're making just under 1,000 cases total,
So small.
Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
Very good. And we carry both the Chard and the Pinot in our house. Are they both La Rinconada based?
Well, there's Sanford and Benedict, which is
Sanford and Benedict is the one.
next door. There's we source fruit from Drum Canyon. We don't always vineyard designate it, but have produced some of those beautiful wines, and that's on the other side of the Santa Rita Hills on the 246 corridor with a kind of fairly different growing conditions. I don't know if it's warmer or cooler. There can be arguments about that. The wind patterns are different. The soil is not quite as stony, and a little heavier soil in a lot of cases. But there's quite a mixture within our climatic region. Then the soils will give you, as you had eloquently described earlier, those nuances, those slighter differences that really create that more prismatic flavor profile in wines. I think the things that we really like, the almost indiscernible, unless you are a geeky taster like I know you are and I am, where you just spend hours kind of letting the wine warm up like a good piece of cheese, so you can really taste it. And it's it's a continuing process. I think you could kind of hear it in all the previous wines and winery owners and winemakers. We're always learning. We're always evolving slowly, maybe not making dramatic changes, but adjusting, and our palate changes. What we like changes, what we aim for. I think the wines I used to make, Chardonnays many years ago, were probably a little too much on the riper side for me now. A lot of people loved them. I must have, heavily oak, sometimes 100% new oak. And some were really pretty awesome, pretty hedonistic. And I think aiming now for a more refined, but tasty. Definitely got to be tasty and interesting. Interesting is, to me, the most important thing about wine. I mean, if I'm making, when I'm working on the assemblage, if I'm not interested in it, I don't know. I mean, it's got to fascinate me in some way for it to make the cut. I have to almost not really understand it. I have to like it, but I don't want to fully understand it. And I don't think you actually can ever anyway.
How much time on lees?
So these wines, I usually go about 2 years now in neutral barrel, surly, only like 1 or 2 stirs during the initial fermentation. And I believe this wine was all native, the primary and the malolactic, with no added yeast. So we're just no racking until bottling. And
there's something that's kind of there's a textural thing that I get from the lees, but there's also something in the center that's like this I don't want to say doughy, but toasty, or something biscuit type.
Yeah, maybe a Robert Parker Pong Gruyere, you know? It's, he loved that phrase. And I know exactly what you're saying. It's almost like what you see in champagne sometimes. You have that yeasty kind of component. That's a pretty good call, Ian.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And I think the Pinot Noir that you made is sensational as well. And I love, championing these smaller producer stories. Maybe you haven't heard of the brand yet, but now that you've seen Jeff and you've heard about his past with Tantara, and maybe you had some Tantara experiences in the past, but now a new story is emerging here, and it's a new brand for Santa Barbara. New for me. I didn't realize you started back in 13, but took me a little while to catch on and figure out that it was you. And I've always really enjoyed your ideas and your quality approach. And damn it if you don't work hard to keep that wine in the right price category, man. That there's so many producers that are making wines without the pedigree vineyards that you're using that are charging much more. And I really do appreciate how interesting your wine is.
No, and I appreciate that, Ian. It's always better to be able to raise prices than have to lower them anyway, right? So, and that's a beautiful picture of Sanford Benedict right there in the springtime, looking east. So,
well, I reviewed the wine myself. I got to get you to some reviewers so they can give you some more pen. But
yeah, we just got a really nice review from Lisa Parati Brown, who's kind of a big deal. She started, for those of you all that maybe don't know who she is, she headed the Wine Advocate. She worked for Robert Parker. I used to read her reviews before she got elevated, and as Parker kind of stepped back, she took over the helm, and then a couple of years ago started her own thing called the Wine Independent. And she's really awesome and a great taster. And she happened to really like our wines from the 2019 vintage. And in fact, Ian, while I was kind of on hold here, I pulled up her review. Let me see if I can. Oh, by the way, this wine here, I also pulled up the numbers. This wine is 13.5 alcohol, 6.5 grams of acid, 3.3 pH. I mean, the numbers on the Chardonnay are spectacular, and we didn't do a thing. This is what nature gave us, and the fruit and that incredible farming that goes on. But let me see if I can find this review. Yep, she said the 2019 Chardonnay La Rinconada vineyard needs a little shaking and swirling to bring out delicate notes of honeysuckle, lemon drops, and juicy apples, plus wafts of wet pebbles, baker's yeast, there you go, and Marcona almonds. The medium body palate is lively and elegantly styled with a refreshing line and a long chalky finish. Reviewed 3/28/2024, and she gave it 94 points. So
that,
hey, it's so I'm kind of getting back in the game early, on, had some really nice reviews, from back in the day, but I kind of laid low for a while, and I think now maybe time to,
step on the gas.
try it again.
Very cool. What's the artwork about?
So this piece is an actual painting that was done by for us, for the brand, by a young artist in Austin, Texas, representing sort of a modernization of the Greek idea of ether, which is the fifth element: earth, wind, fire, water, and ether, the kind of connectivity between the known and the unknown. And I look at it as kind of the otherness that the otherness of wine. The wine has that kind of undefinable quality to it that makes us really like it. We don't really know what it is. And I've thought long and hard about this. I don't want to know what it is, even if I could figure it out. But to me, what this represents, the concentric circles, was what the Greeks came up with. And these, I look at these as like these bent steel beams. It's kind of this modern frame on an ancient art form. So it's just this continuing communal experience that we're having. We're having it tonight. We're sharing ideas and thoughts and taste.
I thought that I thought
Something
this was you were going to tell me it was a deconstructed wine barrel, because I,
people, it has a lot of sort of visual analogies potential, the visual analogy potential there, and like a well or a or the core of the earth, maybe,
yeah, going to the center of the earth.
And this rock pile on next to it is again from Sanford and Benedict, and those are stones that have come from the vineyard. So
amazing. $36, gang. It's I just want, it's an incredible value. How you kept this wine in such a great price point. It is, I think, just a really a home run. And I'm going to enjoy selling this wine, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A fun show you put together here.
Thanks so much. If you have any questions for Jeff, did you find the chat box? Because there's a couple comments waiting for you in there.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I'm
yeah, there you go. Awesome. I really appreciate your time and contribution to tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. We've got one more wine, everybody, and I appreciate you sticking on. We're going to go to Northern California now, to a wine that we were able to taste when I got this started, the store started. I was able to meet with the Dehlinger family. They're a longtime favorite producer of mine. I put them on wine lists back in the early 1990s, and got to reconnect with the Dehlingers. And so we showcased the 2018, and I've gone back a couple of times now to be able to buy this 18 and keep getting some. So we still have some 2018, but this is probably the 5th time I've had 18. And so I just want to show you, sorry, I closed the show early. But I just want to show you this video. Notice it was taped in 2021, but we were talking about that 18 Chardonnay. Well, now I'd like to introduce you to Eva Dehlinger, because you want to say Dehlinger. It's not Dehlinger, it's Dehlinger. And we are tasting one of my favorite Chardonnays here in California. This is a classic brand that everybody maybe should have found out about. It's a smaller, independently owned brand, but a significant brand. And really nice to meet you, Eva.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Ian.
And you have taken the reins of the brand from your dad, right?
That's it. I'm the 2nd generation winemaker and general manager at Dehlinger Winery.
Great. And so every day, do you wake up when the roosters crow and stuff like that, or do you have that kind of existence?
I would say early rising comes with the territory and also with my personality. So yeah, I'm up by dawn. I'm usually awake a little before the sun comes up, turning things over in my head, and I like to get an early start to the day.
Well, here we are in May, and what is happening in May in your family's vineyard?
Well, we are entering what we call the grand period of growth, which is where the green tissue of the grapevines is growing fast, 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 almost to the extent that you can not quite see it grow, but probably measure it on a day-by-day basis. And this is actually one of our busiest times of the year. Harvest is busy, but during the growing season, there's also quite a lot going on.
Excellent. And as far as your last vintage, did you guys make a 2020?
We are making 2020 wines. We're still in the process of evaluating them and making our selections and blending them, but feeling good so far about the wines.
Excellent. And I want to congratulate you being featured on the cover of the Wine Spectator last year with your 2018, I believe it was the Pinot, but I thought that was a pretty big event for you guys.
Yeah, it is always nice to get the exposure. I think they keyed in on us as an example of long-established classic wine in what really was an outstanding vintage in the region.
And I think it's fair to say that, you know, your vineyard, you had the vision, you saw this great piece of ground, and it has now what are called the famous soils of Gold Ridge soils, huh? That's probably a really important marker for your brand, your family, your success.
Well, right, and it's hard for us now in this era to put ourselves in the perspective of my parents who were starting out in the 70s. But the Russian River Valley at that time wasn't fully established as a wine region. And so it was really a pioneering time. And we indeed were fortunate that the area where my family established a wine company really has some of the greatest soils and climate in the world for grape growing.
And what is one, if you were to taste like 5 wines from your region, your area, California even, what do you think people would pick up on in your wine?
I think that the fruit projection in wines from, in particular, Russian River Valley is really notable. That's in part because the weather here is very, very temperate. So you have a maritime influence, you get great development of fruit flavors, but at the same time, retention of them. And so that is really a signature of wines from our area.
Great. And today we're tasting the 2018 Chardonnay. You have that wine in front of you today?
I do, Anne.
All right. What are you picking up on in this moment of its development? Here we are. It's about 2.5, 3 years into its lifespan. And what is it showing off to you?
Well, for me, I am getting certainly classic Chardonnay characteristics, a little bit of green apple, definitely some fresh citrus, lemon, almost even some grapefruit. But as it is now had a little bit of time in the bottle, I'm getting more complexing factors as well. I'm getting, in particular, some hazelnuts, which is one of my favorite characteristics in a Chardonnay, and also a little bit of ginger.
And what do you think the capacity is for this wine? How do you like to tell people what's the window of life for a Dehlinger Chardonnay?
I always think it depends on what an individual is looking for. I think with Chardonnay and other fruit-driven varieties such as Pinot Noir, I think it is myself. I like to enjoy them earlier on when you do get that complex of almost floral aromas, a little bit of white flower. I love that. So myself, I am drinking a lot of the 2018 vintage now. That's only 3 years after the vintage date. But there are people who enjoy the more developed characteristics, more of that hazelnut nuttiness. And in that case, I would say 5 to 8 years. So it's really a matter of taste.
And you're how much new wood on this wine?
This is a little over a third new.
All French?
It's all French oak.
And do you use 100% malolactic fermentation?
Yes.
And do you encourage that, or does it fall short sometimes and you just kind of
Well, so this wine, and in fact, all of our wines are bottled unfiltered. And so from that point of view, I am looking to achieve stability overall. I want the malolactic fermentation to go through in the barrel. I want it to complete. So yes, we will make sure that it does. During that period of the winemaking, we'll keep it in a warmer environment. We'll even give it a little bit of stirring, and we'll monitor it to make sure that malolactic fermentation completes fully and that the wine is going to have a good aptitude for unfiltered bottling.
And did you go to UC Davis, or how did you get your wine chops?
I studied at Stanford. I studied earth sciences. That was an interdisciplinary environmental science program. So that the focus was really more on land management and soil science, which has been obviously helpful in the vineyard management aspect of my job. I studied under my father. That was really the heart of my winemaking education, when I was able to fit in some courses at the local community college, and I studied for a year in Burgundy at the University of Bourgogne, furthering my viticultural degrees.
Sounds like a good excuse to get out of California to me.
It wasn't bad. Although I like it quite a bit here. This is really where my heart is, here in Sonoma County.
Great. Well, I'm so thrilled to be able to taste the wine with you, and I can't wait to see the response from our audience. Thank you very much. This is my second vintage in a row with you guys, and I hope to be a long-term player for Dehlinger. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Have a good day. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian.
I'll hopefully
The extended after discussion. Well, Eva's beautiful and makes spectacular wines, and her family are very early adopters in Sonoma. I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight on our Chardonnay journey. I hope you enjoyed it. Be well. Talk to you soon.